Well, we now have a new possibility for the now years-old guessing game of what Donald Trump's name would be if he were a character on HBO's Emmy-winning gangster series, The Sopranos. If I were in The Sopranos writing room today, my new pitch for the Donald Trump character name would be Donnie Two Dolls. And I'm sure the Emmy-winning creator of The Sopranos, David Chase, would have a better idea. I'm sure he would. But for me today, he's Donnie Two Dolls. And here's why. As we reported on this program last night, companies in the United States who do most of their business during the Christmas season, including companies that sell toys, are facing such a bleak Christmas because of the massive Trump tariffs that some of those companies are already consulting bankruptcy lawyers. Today, that story about the Trump Scrooge effect on Christmas spread to the point where Donald Trump knew he had to respond to it. The New York Times reported factories in China produce nearly 80% of all toys and 90% of Christmas goods sold in America. Alarm in the industry is palpable, with the companies predicting product shortages and higher prices. Some business owners citing how crucial holiday sales are to their bottom lines are consulting bankruptcy lawyers. And now, with 238 shopping days until Christmas, Donald Trump today decided that we just have way too many dolls under those Christmas trees in America, and it is time to cut back.
Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have 2 dolls instead of 30 dolls, you know? And maybe the 2 dolls will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
So Donnie Two Dolls thinks this country's kids are wildly oversupplied with dolls. During World War II, when President Franklin Delano Roosevelt was leading the world in the war against Nazism, while President Roosevelt was leading this country out of the Great Depression at the same time, there were restrictions on what you could buy in this country. There were government-imposed price controls and government-controlled purchasing limits on things like tires and gasoline. But in the worst of World War II, at the absolute height of our mobilization effort, the President of the United States never said how many dolls could be under a Christmas tree. Only Donnie Two Dolls could think like that. Why didn't he mention that in the campaign? Why didn't Donald Trump say in the campaign, there's not going to be as many toys under the Christmas tree when I'm president, especially dolls? And why didn't he say Christmas was going to be more expensive? Why did he never say that his tariffs were going to mean that on Christmas you were going to have to pay, as he put it, a couple of bucks more for those 2 dolls? And why is he saying that now? He's saying it now because the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and the stock market and the Democratic members of Congress and the Senate, like our first guest tonight, Senator Elizabeth Warren, are hammering Donald Trump with the truth about his tariffs every single day. Today, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren posted on social media, quote, Trump on day one, your costs will be lower immediately. Trump on day 100, your kids will now have fewer toys, and also you're going to pay higher prices. For those of you out there who have ever owned a Barbie, I know most of you owned more than one if your parents could afford it. I know many of you owned at least a dozen, but Donnie Two Dolls says those days are over. No more in America. 2 is enough. And there appears to be, from the historical record, some consistency about Donald Trump's ice-cold feelings about dolls.
I remember one of my earlier Christmas gifts was a Barbie, and I was devastated because my brothers had gotten Legos and Erector sets. Right. So to me, this, is traumatic.
Pretty easy life, if that's what you call traumatic. There are children starving to death in Africa tonight because of her father. Her father stopped the life-saving food deliveries that the United States was making to save lives in the famine in South Sudan. That's what USAID was doing there, saving lives with food, the most elementary way you can save a baby's life, by feeding a starving baby. And her father stopped that. In that TV appearance, Ivanka Trump told Conan O'Brien that she grabbed her little brother's Legos and built a model of Trump Tower with them that her father was very proud of. And then, in a book she wrote a couple of years later, Ivanka Trump said that her brothers confronted her about that Lego story, claiming that it just wasn't true. And so it seems tension about what's under the Christmas tree and what happens with it can last an awful long time in that family. And it seems Donald Trump might be the only rich guy in America who bought his daughter exactly one Barbie. I'm sure she was in her Barbie phase for more than just one Christmas, so let's just assume that Donnie Two Dolls ended up getting her at least two Barbies during that period. What you see in Donald Trump's deranged riffing today about two dolls is that all of the chaos landing on us from the Trump tariffs was never anticipated by Donald Trump because he does not understand how tariffs work. I thought Donald Trump was lying every day of the presidential campaign when he said China would pay his tariffs. I thought Donald Trump was at least smart enough to know that tariffs imposed by the United States are paid only in the United States when those goods from foreign countries arrive in the United States. The tariff is paid right on the dock by the companies like Best Buy or General Motors that import those products. The Wall Street Journal wisely, in its editorials, calls tariffs border taxes, because that's exactly what they are. They are sales taxes imposed on Americans at the border, at the port of entry into this country where those goods arrive. The biggest port of entry for products from China is the Port of Los Angeles. Shipping is dropping dramatically in the Port of Los Angeles, and so longshoremen and truck drivers, who are the very first American workers to touch those goods as they arrive in the United States, then move through the United States, are facing the possibility of massive job losses thanks to Donald Trump's tariffs. And they might only be able to afford two dolls under the Christmas tree this year, thanks to Donald Trump. There's no way to survive this. That's what Rick Woldenberg said today on MSNBC in an interview with Chris Jensen, where he explained what Donald Trump's tariffs are doing to his company and the 500 people who now have jobs in that country, in that company, but whose jobs are now threatened by Donald Trump.
Our company makes educational products we sell into schools and we sell into homes, and there's a lot of people who depend on what we do. So obviously frustrating that he basically says what happens to us and the 500 people that work in our company is no concern of his. I can tell you that the stock market is going down, in my opinion, because only one thing has changed, and that's these tariffs. The economy was booming when he came in, and he hit us with tariffs. We are responding to the incentives that he's given us. His first tariff at 10% was a big problem for us, and we immediately began canceling events and cutting our spending. It's now gone up into the stratosphere. It's 2.5 times what he said on the campaign trail would be the highest tariff he would put out. There's no way to survive this. We're in the most competitive market in the world. And I'd like to say one other thing. He said, you know, we had to take our medicine. We're not taking medicine here. We're taking poison. This is going to kill these businesses. I'm one of 300,000 businesses in many industries that are similarly situated and similarly affected. We're not a rounding error. You can talk to any of our employees and ask them.
We're not taking medicine here. We're taking poison. This is going to kill businesses. Voters know now that that is true. This is poison. It's going to kill businesses, kill jobs. And so tonight, Donald Trump has lost the support of the voters who made him president, not the hardcore 25 or 30% who think Donald Trump is some sort of religious figure who they are devoted to. There's probably nothing that Donald Trump could ever do to lose them, no matter what's under their Christmas tree. But weeks ago, Donald Trump lost that 3 or 4% of voters who made him president in the final days of voting and making their decision to vote. And now he is the most unpopular president on the 100th day of his presidency since the invention of polling, and possibly the most concentrated negative opinions and feelings about Donald Trump are held by business leaders, including Republican business leaders. A new poll shows that 84% of business leaders say they are very or somewhat concerned about the impact of the current political and legal climate on their businesses. In that poll, 81% of Republican business leaders said they are very or somewhat concerned about the impact of the current political and legal climate on their businesses. When Donald Trump decided to get into the business of selling his strangely enormous neckties in bright, garish colors, he had those neckties made in China. And the Trump golf carts, where Donald Trump appears to spend as much time as he does sitting in the Oval Office, those golf carts are some of the most international products in the world. CNBC reports while both Club Car and E-Z-GO assemble their golf carts in the United States, they source their components from China, Taiwan, India, Malaysia, Turkey, and Europe, among other countries. No matter how long Donald Trump clings to his tariff madness that is separating him from voters and making congressional Republicans vulnerable in the next election, and no matter how long Donald Trump plays golf, he will never in his lifetime ride in a golf cart made with all American parts. That will not happen in Donald Trump's lifetime. The Wall Street Journal editorial board was very disappointed that Jeff Bezos assured Donald Trump in a panicked phone call made by Donald Trump that Amazon will never reveal to customers how much the Trump tariffs are adding to the prices they will pay and already are paying on Amazon. The Wall Street Journal editorial board said, quote, "The public could have used Amazon's price transparency. Tariffs are taxes, and it's helpful to know how policy choices affect final prices. Some shoppers might say the additional cost is worth it to support Mr. Trump's policy, but there's no denying that they're paying, and everyone is better off knowing how much. Like taxes, tariffs often add a precise dollar figure to a sticker price. Voters who pay little attention to the macroeconomy will notice a direct markup on items they buy." Senator Elizabeth Warren has some questions for Jeff Bezos and what she called his subservience to Donald Trump after Donald Trump made that phone call to Jeff Bezos to complain about just the possibility of Amazon actually revealing on its website what the Trump tariffs are actually doing to prices. Senator Warren wrote to Jeff Bezos saying yesterday's activity appears to be another example of big tech working together with President Trump to seek special favors or support his policies in what can appear to be a quid pro quo. My concerns about the potential for tariff-related corruption to benefit big tech firms who provided millions in donations to the Trump inaugural committee and other insiders as the president rolls out, reverses and modifies his policies, have become more acute with each passing day. And yesterday's report indicated that you have now personally become involved in key decisions about what consumers can learn about the true cost of tariffs. Tonight on the Senate voted 49-49 on a resolution to stop Donald Trump's tariffs that he imposed after declaring a national emergency. Two senators who missed the vote would have voted in favor of the resolution. The Republicans who voted for the resolution include Senator Rand Paul, Susan Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. Before the vote in the Senate tonight, Senator Elizabeth Warren said this.
President Trump took a strong American economy and broke it in less than 100 days. Right now, Republican senators are at a crossroads. Will they vote to stop Trump's chaotic tariffs and save our economy, or will they continue bending the knee to Donald Trump? Americans are worried they won't be able to survive a cratering economy. And just today, Americans woke up to the news that Donald Trump single-handedly shrunk our economy in 3 months and raised the cost of their groceries. The warning lights are all flashing red. We've seen this before. But this time, our economy is teetering on the edge, not because of a mortgage meltdown or a one-in-a-century virus, but because of one man alone, the President of the United States. If Republicans care about the American people, they will vote yes on our resolution today and turn off the fake emergency that Donald Trump is using to impose his on-again, off-again, red light, green light tariffs, the tariffs that are pushing our economy off a cliff.